Said we're good, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I'm gonna call our meeting to order. It is 5 o'clock. And I need a motion to approve the agenda for the board workshop meeting. Brian, Nicole, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You heard us, right? Okay. So next up, we have quite a few field trips to approve. I need a motion that the board approve the attached field trip requests. Lisa?
Second.
Rich? Any discussion? Nice to see lots of cool things on there. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Which leads me to our main reason for being here. We are ready for our instructional budget presentation.
Yes, we are here. Mr. Loff is coming in with waters that we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Jordan. Again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share the draft instructional budget, and I think it's important that we use the word draft because there's still work to be done on it as we look to March 18th. We'll be talking about the instructional budget and the revenues to give the board a good sense on how the budget is coming together. And last month we talked about the non-instructional budget, which is essentially the operational side of our budget. Yes, it's been a bad. It's a bad.
I'm sorry. I'm giggling at the waters.
I know. It's just coming.
Anybody else do that?
Way to go. Thank you. Thank you very much. They're cold too. Thank you, Mr. Love. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Stevens, and we also have Jeremy Nardone here, who's
Welcome.
yes, his very first board workshop in his official capacity. But Matt's going to be driving, and he'll be with us for the rest of the month before Jeremy takes over. So I know he's studying the budget carefully, and he's learning from what we consider, or who we consider, the very best. So without further ado, Mr. Stevens is going to go over some of the major talking points of the instructional budget and follow up with some questions.
Thank you and good evening. So tonight we're going to go over the instructional budget draft and take a look at the memo. Highlighted a few of the function codes in the memo itself in terms of drawing out some key points. Overall, as we looked at developing the instructional portion of the budget, really just involves, for the most part, contractual salary increases, stable in other areas like material supplies, equipment, contractual. In some of those areas, if there were cost increases because of vendor costs and some of those pieces, those may roll in overall to the entire budget. There's BOE services wrapped into each one of the, for the most part, the function codes as well. So we have rates from BOCES in terms of what our costs would be there, ranging from instructional supports technology, career and tech ed programming, special ed program, just to name a few of the examples there. So professional development, some of those pieces that we're able to run through BOCES, get our BOCES aid on the following year in the revenue side of the budget. So just to kind of jump into the memo itself, first you can see between the first two functions, curriculum development and supervision, which essentially is the administrative support as a whole for curriculum development supervision, instructional directors, central office. Between that and the 2013 Director of Special Ed Code, we just had some recoding of wages between those two pieces there. So you'll see a decrease and an increase between them. If you remember years back, we had Director of Special Areas, which was coded in the 2010. Essentially, at the end of the day, from a state standpoint, ST3 level, they roll up into the same exact function of 2010. We just identify and break them out differently throughout. Yeah, so we break out quite a few. We break it out for, if you look through our entire budget, we break it out for special ed, athletic director, like all those roll technically up into the 2010 from a state reporting standpoint. So that's what the change between those two are, coupled with any salary increases based on contract there as well. Next, looking at 2020, just wanted to draw out that this is related to our supervision regular school, essentially building level administration, any clerical support, any support in terms of monitors throughout the buildings, any sentries, guardians that we have. That's where those would be coded for the district. So again, standard increase there. Could also be movement sometimes between positions. If somebody takes a different role, moves within the district, that's what you would see in those codes. So again, that's standard as a whole there.
I apologize. And that's just for normal during school day?
That's regular, yep.
Okay.
There could be some after-school pieces that may flow through there in terms of supports that could take place, but it's primarily regular school day during the day. Next, 2040, supervision regular school, supervision special school. That's pretty much cost to support summer school supervision. Has to be coded separately. That's the function code related to that. So just wanted to draw out that those are two separate function codes as a whole. 2070 in-service training instruction, that's professional development, and that includes our BOCE services, like I mentioned before. A couple examples, the MTSS, social emotional learning supports, and leadership coaching that we run through Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES to support some of our leaders throughout the district. So that's where that flows through in that area, as well as our PD department as well. 2110, that's teaching regular school. So this would include anything in terms of our regular instructional staffing that we don't break out separately, like we do break out art separately, we break out English. Again, those are very similar to what I mentioned about the 2010, 2013. Those are all 2110 functions as a whole. As you look through the budget, you'll see that we do break out art, English, math, all those pieces separately. They do roll up on a consolidated reporting format, but we do break it out. So that in teaching regular school would have elementary staffing, as an example, rolled in there, to name one. And there, where you see the changes there as a whole, you see that's actually down. Relates to staffing adjustments due to class sizes. And it does include UPK costs for the amount that exceeds the grant. So just wanted to outline that. That's where we pay for the amount not covered by the 5,400 per pupil allocation.
So if we divided the 285 by the 6 classes we run, it's about 40 set.
It's actually 4 classes because 2 of our classes are funded by the statewide Universal Full Day Pre-K Grant Award that we received in 14-15.
Okay.
That covers 10,000 per pupil. So it's the other 4 classes that we run that are only funded at 5,400. So divide it by 4.
Okay, so if we theoretically wanted to add another class, we're looking at about 70,000 out of the general fund?
Roughly, it could depend on the provider.
Okay.
Different providers have slightly different costs, so it's not perfect in terms of taking an average, because there are some that are able to run the programs a little bit less than others. Depends on their staffing, the levels that they have, and so on.
Okay.
So, and then within there also includes, for any programs that are running outside of the district, so at a site, they are taking care of all of the food pieces. When it's run in district, we have a portion budgeted to pay the food service invoice that comes through to the district each month when that comes through. And then they're being submitted through for reimbursement as well. So Michelle Savage, Director of Food Service, she does work through the difference on those pieces for the district for what comes through general fund.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I know we all got a lot of feedback about UPK and why can't we roll out more classes quicker, and so that's good information to have to share and to empower our community to advocate at the state level and the federal level.
Yep, yeah, thank you. There's also like Children's Institute, they have some support there too for some contractual services for training and materials, and we do have materials and supplies in there also. So there's a couple of pieces that flow through the district for costs, then direct to providers, so it's a little mix of all of them. Excuse me. Next in the memo, looking at 2158, this is related to math, and this simply is how our Title I grants are supporting reading and math specialists within the budget. So just in terms of the amount that's being supported by the grant, shifting between reading and math as a whole. Instrumental music, vocal music, and phys ed, all three of those just factor in the changes in staffing within the groups. Could be retirements. There could also have been some shift between, if you look at instrumental and vocal, actually it's pretty close to a equal increase and decrease in terms of the staffing and where they're coded within the district. And then some phys ed pieces could also be coded over to the health side. So I believe there was some, we had some staffing changes, retirements in previous years that are being recognized now through budget development. Next, jumping to 2250, which was the program for students with disabilities, school-age school year. There's separate pieces when we have extended school year. That's separate from the 10 months during the school year. Here, again, includes our own district staffing, includes the BOCES projections and any private placement that we have in the district that are outside BOCES. So looking at the tuition rates, both at BOCES, related service costs, and then the cost to run programs in district for our existing students that we're servicing both in district and out of district.
But I was kind of surprised how many options we are supporting with the outside placements in the coming year and probably this year too.
Yep. Yeah, mix between Mary Carriola and Norman Howard, just to name a couple of the.
Yeah, the other part that I thought looks like we're doing a great job is with like transition age folks, kids that would be in that 18 to 21. I didn't realize how many different programs.
BOCES.
But yeah, it's great. Very important. So.
Yeah.
I-
So.
Matt,
Yes.
just a quick question, and I should know the answer. I apologize, I don't. But there's 2280 occupational education. Under that, there's a code 22 for special programs. Just curious what those special.
Yep. So the 22 is actually just tying in that's the addition of the 2250 and 2280. That's all that is.
So it's literally just adding.
It's adding. Yep. So within within this here, you'll see 21's general instruction. That's adding up all the 21's. If you're up top, you would have seen 20. That would have added up all the 2000. Yep, 2010s through 2019s. Yep, good question. So even though it's not on the memo, because you mentioned it, we'll just kind of talk occupational ed really quick, kind of what it entails. It's both our in-district programming and any students we have attending BOCES through the Eastern Monroe Career Center programming. So right now we have 85, I believe, in the program in the current year. So, yep.
Does that generally meet what our students want? Do we have students who aren't able?
We're able to usually accommodate most of our students. There are times though, depending on the program that they're looking for, that there is a waiting list.
Yeah.
That is usually not a Fairport thing, it's a BOCES thing.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. It's tough to fit more welding, like
Yeah.
when we took the tour of the little areas.
It's a significant savings to families who do have students that go through these programs and get certifications, because if you try to go back and do it after the fact, it's a lot more. So I think it's a great option.
Yeah, and they did some great work years ago that districts all had to pay for. But they did some reconstruction over with these programs that they did a lot of. I think some maybe have toured the facilities, but between their cosmetology, some of the different pieces they have over there, they've done a lot of work to support our students.
Yep.
Next is the summer school coding. So here, it's a mix between our K-8 STAR programming, our reading and math programming, music programming that we offer in the summer, as well as the BOCES summer school. But here you'll see the impact mostly related to our own internal programming, just trying to really continue to align the budget with where we're seeing those costs come in based on the programming. So, and that would be support from teaching staff to aides to supervision, anything related to our summer programming, supplies, materials as well. 2630, this is the computer assisted instruction, essentially the instructional portion of our technology programming from the district. If you remember, 1680 is where the non-instructional support is for our tech programming. In 2630, this would include any of our instructional tech coaches, as well as the tech support over at our ISC department that supports the instructional side of our programming. So we do have, it's broken out between our non-instructional technicians and then some instructional tech support. Any equipment that we're purchasing, hardware, software, that's all instructional related would flow through these codes. And we do have some BOCE services that are tied in here as well. So both in district and through BOCES for our costs here. State aided hardware flows through this function code, as well as our state aided software as well. So this is just factoring in the hardware, software services, and then we did reallocate. Overall, you can see there's a decrease in this account code because if you remember when we were talking about 1680, we reallocated some funds from 2630 to 1680 to align more with the purchases and where they were taking place to support our program. 2815, health services. This is where our nursing staff, any of our health services to other districts would flow through, and that's the major impact change within this code. We do have to pay as school districts any Fairport residents that are attending a non-public school outside of the district. We get invoiced by the public school district that is providing the health services to the students. So that gets invoiced back to the school district, and we're required to pay those costs.
So one example, because I saw faces, I was surprised by that too, but I think I get it. Would that an example be if a student is going to like St. Louis, for example? I know the Pittsford School District covers their nurse there, so then we pay Pittsford.
Yes, we do.
Right.
Yep. So Pittsford will provide us a list of the students that are Fairport residents in the program. That comes over to our office. We verify the students are attending that school, right? We verify the enrollment, and they provide us the calculation, and they can wrap in any services related to health services.
Right.
So it can range from nursing services to any related services that are related there as well.
That one was a surprise to me as well. And I think this has been brought up before. I know we don't have any, I don't think, right.
No.
So we're just a district that doesn't have to cover it because we don't have any private schools within our area. So Brighton, many other districts do have to cover the nurse for those private ones.
Yep. So we don't have to provide the
Yeah.
services,
Just a
therefore we
reminder.
don't bill for any services.
We did busing, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yep. So as their costs continue to rise, right, then that's why we see increased costs for us as well. And then last in the memo, interscholastic athletics. So this includes a couple of coaching positions related to program development of existing programs. And then increased costs for event supervision, as well as officials, supplies, and equipment replacements. So those are the kind of the big pieces that tie through here. You'll notice event supervision is probably one of the largest. Continue to analyze, evaluate the costs related to both security as well as our athletic supervisors to identify what those costs are looking like each year. And I know we've talked a little bit about that.
No, I mean just a little more detail as possible on that.
So that was one area as we were going through the budget process, and we do have a gap that we're going to be trying to close, that we recognize that we need to look at this line item and assess it and make a considerable reduction in that. And it was all based upon previous year spending and a trajectory that that Matt was looking at, and that was helpful because that helps us get a good picture on that particular line item, if that makes sense.
And in one of our past tours, you were talking about how there tends to be a lot of overlap at times between the athletic department bringing supervision and our centuries. So is that part
That's
of?
exactly what
okay.
that is.
Okay.
And we, and I've been talking to the administrators in charge of that, and we're looking to get a handle on that.
So in terms of supervision, this is safety, security around.
Yeah, I mean, you come to our events, you'll see that there's a presence. You'll see yellow jackets and blue jackets. And sometimes I see too many yellow jackets and too many blue jackets. And so we just need to find that sweet spot. And I think as we, everyone's have a heightened interest on security. I think that's what the interest in developing it was. But now, we're sort of settling in and getting a good rhythm and flow and trying to set standards on, crowd size. Because some games, all games and competitions and events are not created equal. And, we do know where our top draws are going to come from. And, we can add there and take away from some of the softer draws, if you will.
And these are specific, this is specific to athletics, just this particular account code.
And I know there's probably an increase when I was looking at it because we added some teams too, right? So I think I saw in there girls hockey and
Well, the girls hockey did not make it in there. We're still developing.
Oh, okay.
We're still developing that. We believe at this time that there's not a qualified.
what I
There's not a
wondered.
qualified interest. There are people who are interested in it, but not enough to field a team. And then if we are going to field a team, we'd have to do a combined team.
that's what I thought.
And then we're trying to find like partners. So it needs to be developed.
Okay.
But
must
girls
be-
wrestling and flag football are both relatively new.
That's
right?
probably what I
100%.
was
And rugby?
What's that?
I didn't know if she was also thinking rugby.
Rugby, I'm not sure if there's,
I-
is there a girls rugby team?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the ones with the check boxes. I
Okay.
miss, it's in the list.
Okay.
But it's the ones that have the check next
Yeah,
to
so
it.
if it's not checked,
Yes,
it's
it's
not
not
feeding up.
checked. Yep, got it.
Quick, just a quick question about like the athletic security. Has there been a request for added security? Has there been kind of a feeling
I
that
think there was always a heightened awareness. And so I think in the world that we're living in, that was always, a community interest as well.
Mhm.
And so I'm getting a sense that, we have a good handle on it, we have a good form and process. And so that's when we're going to evaluate that particular line item. So no one's ever formally complained about, safety and security.
So that's a summary. I appreciate you looking at the notes. That's great. Yeah.
I really read it, so at least I know what the check box means now.
I told her,
Yeah.
I told her what to read. No, not at all. Are there any
questions?
Are there any other questions or?
I have like a very high level question. So just looking at the different components here, how it is laid out between admin support, general instruction, special programs, summer school, tech, athletics, is this a pretty typical allocation of cost for our district? Or does this fluctuate year over year as far as the portion of the instructional budget into each of those buckets?
Without looking at year-over-year history and percentages and proportions, I would say as a whole, it's pretty typical in
Yeah.
terms of how it continues to flow. The areas, some could just depend on retirements, resignations, and then where salaries may fluctuate and shift a little bit between codes, just
Right.
changing the
Yeah.
percentage, but nothing material that's really going to shift it quite a bit.
And you want to see
So
that level
over-
of consistency. You
Right.
don't want to see the fluctuations. And, when you do have like a program adjustment, you'll see a shift, or a program add, like we did with MTSS, you'll see a shift.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Yeah. So overall, kind of skipped over the large number in the beginning, the main, the overall sum, but overall about a $1.97 million increase, or 2.43%. Just kind of looking at snapshot in terms of where we were previous year, it's lower. If you remember, 24-25 budget development involved absorbing a lot of positions related to the stimulus funding. So we were over 5% in terms of an increase from 23-24 to 24-25, or about 4.5, $4 to $4.5 million at that point in time when we were in budget development. So that's where would notice if you looked year over year, if you pulled out the memo from prior year, that would be one of the main reasons, because we had a lot of absorbing to take place in 24, 25.
Any other questions? Mr. Stevens, thank you. We'll be sharing the first draft of this next, it's Tuesday the 18th, excuse me. And that will also have a snapshot of the revenues to balance the budget.
Glad I know what
Moving
the
along.
checkbox means. I should have asked before. Okay, let's see here. Moving on. I need a motion to enter into executive session for matters pertaining to the job performance and evaluation of members in a non-collective bargaining unit. Invited to participate are Superintendent Provenzano, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Delaf, Assistant Superintendent of the Business Office. So we have Matt Stevens and Jeremy Nardone. Sorry.
Under the trunk with Jerry.
I know. I don't know why I said that. It is part.
Okay.
Some of.
Brian.
Second.
Mary Caitlin, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. If you're listening attentively at home, we will not be coming back to have discussions. We'll just reconvene to end our meeting. So, sorry. Thank you and
Good night.
good night.